They say every warrior carries two blades. One is forged of steel. The other is forged of silence. Most men learn to wield the first. Only a few survive long enough to master the second. High in the mountains of old Japan, a lone swordsman climbed a snow-filled path with a heart heavier than the sword at his hip. He walked like a man chased by something unseen, not an enemy, but a habit, a craving, a quiet addiction that had stolen years from him without ever raising its voice. It wasn't opium, it wasn't sake, it wasn't gambling or lust. It was the kind of addiction men hide behind achievements, behind smiles, behind a life that looks disciplined from the outside, yet trembles at night when no one is watching. His hands shook, his breath shortened, his spirit felt like a cracked bowl, held together only by the hope that some teacher, somewhere, still remembered the ancient system that could repair the mind the way kintsugi repairs broken porcelain. At the monastery's peak, the elder monk waited, still, unmoving, carved from the same silence the swordsman feared. He did not ask what the addiction was. He only said, "Every chain begins as comfort. Every comfort becomes a master." And with those words, the ritual began. A secret path of presence, fire, breath, and ruthless honesty. A path that would tear away every escape the swordsman ever used and reveal the truth he had buried beneath them. If the silence within you stirs, follow this journey and let it continue. The young swordsman expected healing to look like medicine, a powder, a ritual herb, a whispered technique that would pull the poison from his spirit. But when he bowed before the master, the old monk simply turned and began walking up the steep, frozen path without a single word. The silence felt heavier than the snow. Each step forced the swordsman to confront the body he had abandoned and the mind he had allowed to drift into hidden addictions. His breath rasped, his legs trembled. The mountain felt alive, as if testing whether he truly wanted to be free or merely wanted relief. Halfway up, an old wooden drawer embedded in the cliffside caught his eye, locked, ancient, with a red thread tied around its handle. The master did not explain it, and that silence unsettled him more than the climb itself. Near the summit, the wind shifted, sharp, needling, almost whispering. The swordsman felt a craving rise in him with frightening speed, as if the mountain itself had opened the wound he tried to bury. His chest tightened, his hands shook. He wanted to turn back, to return to the familiar comfort of the habit he hated yet relied on. The master finally stopped and faced him with calm, unblinking eyes. "Addiction," the monk said softly, "is the echo of a hunger you've never named." The words landed like a blade across the swordsman's pride. He thought he was battling a substance, a behavior, a weakness, but standing there, breath burning in the winter air, he felt something deeper, a hollow space inside him, an untouched absence, a cracked cross of emotion he had never dared to lift. The master pointed toward the monastery gates. The true ritual had not even begun. The hut was smaller than the swordsman expected, barely large enough for a mat, a water bowl, and the thin crack of light that slipped through the wooden boards. When the master closed the door, the silence rushed in like a living thing. It wasn't peaceful. It was sharp, invasive, exposing every tremor inside him. Hour by hour, the cravings rose, first as gentle whispers, then as violent tides crashing against his skull. His breath grew uneven. His mind searched desperately for escape, for distraction, for anything. By nightfall, he began to understand why the hut's walls had deep scratch marks, like the memories of men who had fought invisible battles before him. On the second morning, a strange object appeared at the foot of his mat. A burned ledger, half crumbled, its pages fused shut. He didn't know who placed it there, or why. The silence refused to explain. On the second night, when the cravings peaked like a storm at sea, the master's voice finally slipped through the wooden door. Low, steady, unhurried. "Do not fight the urge," he said. "Watch it, name it, ask it what it is hiding." The swordsman turned his attention inward, as if holding a lantern over a locked drawer in his own chest. Each craving, when observed, began to change shape. What first felt like a demand for his old habit revealed itself as something else: fear of being alone, shame he had never spoken, an ancient grief that returned whenever the world grew quiet. His mind shook like a cracked cross under too much weight. He touched the burned ledger with trembling fingers and realized this was his life. Pages of emotion he had never opened, now sealed by his own avoidance. Stillness had revealed the wound, but stillness alone could not transform a warrior. By dawn, the master led the swordsman to a courtyard where an iron bowl sat atop cracked stone. Inside it lay ash, thick, dark, layered from years of secrets burned before his. The master handed him a brush and a thin ledger identical to the burned one from the hut. "Write," the monk said. "Not what you did, but why you did it." The blade cut deeper than expected. The swordsman wrote every pattern, every excuse, every moment he surrendered to impulse. But as the ink dried, something strange happened. The words blurred, shifting like shadows trying to hide their true form. One line seemed to rewrite itself, a memory he did not want to face. A night he had buried so deeply that even he questioned whether it truly happened. The master did not let him look away. When the ledger felt heavier than any sword he had lifted, the monk pointed to the fire. His hands trembled as he placed the ledger into the iron bowl. The flames rose slowly at first, then violently, as if recognizing prey. The ink curled, the paper shrieked, and each sentence he had written seemed to lift into the air like a painful spirit being released. But then a page refused to burn, a single fragment, the one containing the memory he feared most. It blackened at the edges yet would not disintegrate, clinging stubbornly to its shape like a ghost refusing to leave the body. The master stepped forward, eyes ancient and merciless. "You cannot walk a new path," he said, while dragging the corpse of the old one. The swordsman exhaled, reached into the fire, and pressed the page down with his bare hand. The pain was immediate, searing, undeniable, but honest. When he withdrew, the page was gone, but the void it left inside him had only begun to open. But the void left behind must be filled with purpose. The void left by the burned ledger followed the swordsman like a shadow, hollow, echoing, dangerous. The master wasted no time before filling it. At dawn, he placed a wooden staff in the swordsman's hands and pointed to the frost-covered courtyard. "Keiko," the master said, "training not for victory, but for becoming." The first strikes were clumsy, his breath fractured, his muscles, weakened by years of spiritual neglect, trembled with every motion. But beneath the strain, something unexpected stirred, a faint pulse of purpose, like an ember hidden under ash. By noon, Keiko shifted from body to breath. The master taught him how craving rises in the chest before it rises in the mind, how a single inhalation can either dissolve an impulse or feed it. At sunset, the training deepened again. Spirit training, the one discipline no man can fake. A cracked cross hung on the dojo wall, its splintered shape whispering a message the master had not yet explained. As the days passed, something inside the swordsman shifted. The cravings still came, but now they collided with a mind held upright by ritual. Each urge met resistance, not from willpower, but from structure. Keiko wrapped around him like invisible armor, giving shape to hours that once drowned him in impulse. One evening, after a particularly brutal session, the master finally touched the cracked cross on the wall. "This," he said, "is every man who tried to fight addiction by force alone. They break because they try to remove the craving without replacing the meaning it used to hold." The realization struck the swordsman harder than any strike that day. His addiction had been fulfilling a role, numbing, distracting, filling space. Without Keiko, that space would consume him again. Discipline wasn't punishment. It was architecture, the scaffolding of a new identity. And he sensed the master was preparing him for something far more difficult. One final test remained: the trial of return. The morning of his departure arrived quietly. No ceremony, no farewell drum, only the thin breath of wind brushing past the monastery gates. The swordsman stood where he once collapsed in desperation, but now his posture carried a different weight. Not pride, not victory, but presence. A grounded stillness that did not need to announce itself. The master walked beside him to the first bend in the path, where the mountain dropped into a sea of mist. Freedom, the monk said, is not the absence of impulse. It is the ability to face it and remain unmoved. The words followed him long after the master faded into the fog. As he descended, the world tested him immediately. Familiar scents, familiar memories, familiar shadows tugging at the edges of his mind. But something had changed. The cravings rose, and he did not bow. Each step felt deliberate, like rewriting an old story without erasing the pain that shaped it. Halfway down the path, he passed the same locked drawer embedded in the cliffside, the one wrapped with a red thread he had seen on his desperate ascent. This time, he stopped. The drawer seemed older now, or perhaps he could simply see it more clearly. He touched the wood. The thread loosened on its own, falling into his palm like a quiet acknowledgement. Inside lay nothing, only emptiness, a reflection of the space he once feared, the same void he had tried to fill with his addiction. But now, instead of terror, he felt understanding. Not everything empty is broken. Some spaces are meant to be lived with, not escaped. When he reached the foot of the mountain, the world felt sharper, heavier, more alive. He walked into it not as a man cured, but as a man prepared, anchored, disciplined, awake. He did not notice the faint echo behind him, as if something on the mountain had awakened too. Addiction fades when the spirit becomes stronger than the craving that once controlled it.